Have you ever noticed something strange? The harder you worry, the more your life seems to fall apart. But the moment you stop worrying, not giving up, just letting go, things start to work out in ways you couldn't plan. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's reality finally meeting a calm mind. We live in an age where people confuse constant worry with responsibility. They think overthinking is intelligence. They think anxiety means they care. But Stoicism teaches something far more unsettling and far more powerful. Worry is not control. It's the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius wrote in a world full of chaos, war, and uncertainty. Yet his mind was steady. Not because life was easy, but because he understood what most people never do. Today, we'll uncover 5 Stoic truths that explain why everything starts to work out when you stop worrying, and how calm, disciplined thinking quietly puts your life back into alignment. Stay with me. Truth number 5 changes how you see everything. 1. Worry is a sign. You're trying to control what isn't yours. Let's be honest about something uncomfortable. Most people don't worry because they care too much. They worry because they're trying to control outcomes they were never meant to control. Worry feels active. It feels responsible. It feels like you're doing something. But in reality, worry is often the mind pacing in circles, burning energy without producing action. Think about it. You worry about what people will think, how things will turn out, whether your effort will be enough, whether the future will punish you. Yet none of that worrying changes the outcome. What it changes is you. It drains your focus. It fragments your attention. It weakens your ability to respond clearly when the moment actually arrives. Stoicism calls this out mercilessly. There is a line that separates a calm, powerful mind from a restless one. What is within your control, and what is not? Your effort, your preparation, your choices, your values, those are yours. Other people's reactions, timing, luck, the final outcome, those were never yours to begin with. And here's the hard truth most people don't want to hear. When you worry, you're not being careful. You're crossing that line. You're trying to mentally manage reality instead of acting within it. That's why worry feels exhausting. You're doing a job that isn't yours. Look at how worry shows up in daily life. Someone sends a short message, and your mind fills in 10 worst-case scenarios. A project isn't finalized yet, and you mentally live through failure before it even happens. A relationship feels uncertain, and you rehearse conversations that may never occur. None of that is wisdom. It's anticipatory suffering. You suffer today for a future that might never exist. Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that pain comes in 2 forms: pain from reality, pain from imagination. And the second one is optional. When you accept this, something shifts. You stop asking, what if it goes wrong? And you start asking, what is the next correct action? That question changes everything, because action lives in the present. Worry lives in fantasy. A calm mind doesn't mean a careless life. It means a precise life. You still prepare, you still plan, you still show up with discipline. But once you've done what's yours to do, you release the rest. Not emotionally, strategically. You understand that clinging doesn't increase control. It decreases clarity. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop worrying about the outcome, your actions become sharper, your words become cleaner, your decisions become less desperate, your presence becomes grounded. People can feel that. Calm isn't passive. Calm is intimidating, because it signals self-trust. And self-trust is built by honoring one rule over and over again. Only carry what is yours, nothing more, nothing less. So here's a simple Stoic practice you can use immediately. The next time worry appears, pause and ask one question. Is this within my control? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, act, adjust, improve. If the answer is no, release, refocus, return to what is yours. No argument, no negotiation. That single habit does more for your mental strength than hours of reassurance. Because peace doesn't come from certainty. It comes from alignment, and alignment begins the moment you stop trying to manage the universe and start managing yourself. Calm is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of order inside your mind. And order begins when worry ends. 2. Letting go is not giving up. It's choosing reality. Most people resist letting go for one simple reason. They believe letting go means losing. Losing control, losing power, losing the chance to make things go their way. So they hold on, they replay conversations, they cling to expectations, they fight outcomes that already happened. And they call it not giving up. Stoicism calls it something else. Refusing to accept reality. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't suffer because you let go too easily. You suffer because you hold on to things that no longer exist. A version of the past, a future you imagined, an outcome you believed you deserved. Letting go feels painful because it forces you to face what is, not what you wish was. But that pain is short-lived. Resistance, that pain compounds. Most worry is born right here, in the gap between reality and expectation. You wanted certainty. Life gave ambiguity. You wanted fairness. Life gave randomness. You wanted control. Life gave conditions. The untrained mind argues with that gap. The Stoic mind steps into it. Acceptance in Stoicism is not surrender, it's orientation. You stop wasting energy fighting the terrain and start moving intelligently across it. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, illness, war, and political decay. He didn't like any of it. He didn't pretend it was good. He simply stopped demanding that reality be different. That decision alone made him formidable. Because once you accept reality, something powerful happens. Your mind stops leaking energy. No more inner arguments. No more "this shouldn't be happening." No more mental resistance. And suddenly, you have strength again. This is where people get confused. They think acceptance means passivity. But look closer. The moment you accept reality, you see clearly. You adapt faster. You act without emotional distortion. Letting go doesn't weaken action. It purifies it. Think about a storm. If you scream at the sky, nothing changes. If you deny the storm exists, you suffer more. But if you acknowledge it, you adjust your route, secure your footing, and move with precision. Reality works the same way. When you let go of how things should be, you gain access to how things can be handled. This is why life often starts working out after you stop worrying. Not because the world magically improves, but because your mind stops fighting shadows. You begin to respond instead of react. And response is power. Here's another hard truth. Many people cling to worry because it gives them an excuse not to act cleanly. As long as you're anxious, you can stay stuck. As long as you're worried, you can delay decisions. As long as you're emotionally entangled, you can avoid responsibility. Letting go removes those hiding places. It says, "This is the situation. Now what?" No drama, no self-pity, no fantasy, just reality and your next move. That's why letting go feels threatening to the ego. It strips away illusion. But what remains is far more useful. Clarity, discipline, and forward motion. Here's a simple Stoic reframe you can practice. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "Given this reality, what does a rational person do next?" That question returns agency instantly. You stop negotiating with emotions. You stop arguing with fate. You start aligning with facts. And alignment is where calm lives. Not the calm of avoidance, the calm of readiness. Because once you accept reality, you stop bracing against life and start moving with it. And that's when progress becomes steady instead of chaotic. Letting go is not losing control. It's releasing the illusion that you ever had it, and in that release, you gain something far more reliable. A mind that works with reality, not against it. 3. The more you chase outcomes, the less control you have. Here's one of the most counterintuitive Stoic truths. The harder you chase outcomes, the weaker your position becomes. Most people live outcome-obsessed lives. They fixate on winning, being validated, getting a specific response, forcing life to arrive on their timeline. They tell themselves, once this works out, I'll finally relax. But that moment rarely comes. Because attachment to outcomes doesn't create certainty. It creates anxiety. The Stoics understood something modern culture ignores. Outcomes are external. Effort is internal. And when you tie your peace to externals, you surrender stability. Think about how chasing outcomes changes your behavior. You start rushing decisions, you compromise standards, you over-explain, you push when patience is required. Not because you're weak, but because you're afraid of losing the result. That fear leaks into everything. Your tone shifts, your posture tightens, your judgment narrows. And ironically, the very outcome you're chasing begins to move further away. This happens everywhere. At the gym, people obsessed with quick results quit early. Those focused on the process show up consistently. In work, those chasing praise burn out. Those focused on mastery quietly advance. In relationships, those desperate for reassurance push others away. Those grounded in self-respect attract stability. The Stoics didn't reject success. They rejected dependency on success. They understood that when your self-worth depends on outcomes, you no longer act freely. You act strategically compromised. Seneca warned about this centuries ago. He observed that people suffer more in anticipation than in reality. Why? Because anticipation is fueled by attachment. You imagine the future. You cling to a specific ending. And your mind starts living there instead of here. That's not vision. That's mental exile. Stoicism offers a different discipline. Commit fully to the process, then release the result. Not emotionally, logically. You define what right action looks like. You execute it with care. You repeat it consistently. And then you let life decide the rest. This doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you resilient, because when outcomes fluctuate, and they will, your center doesn't move. Your peace is no longer hostage to success or failure. This is why calm people often seem lucky. They're not lucky. They're unattached. They do the work. They adapt when needed. They don't collapse when plans change. They understand something crucial. You can control effort. You can't control reward. The moment you stop bargaining with the future, your attention returns to the present, and the present is where leverage exists. Here's a practical Stoic exercise you can apply immediately. Instead of setting outcome-based goals like, I must succeed, this has to work. They need to approve this. Redefine success as, did I act with discipline? Did I prepare properly? Did I respond rationally under pressure? Those are controllable. Those are repeatable. Those are stabilizing. And here's the paradox most people miss. When you stop needing a specific outcome, your performance improves. You speak more clearly, you think more flexibly, you adjust faster when reality shifts. Because you're no longer defending an imagined future. You're responding to what's actually happening. This is where worry loses its grip. Worry feeds on uncertainty combined with attachment. Remove attachment, and uncertainty becomes manageable. You stop asking, what if I fail, and start asking, what's the best action available right now? That question creates momentum. and momentum beats anxiety every time. Life begins to work out, not because everything goes your way, but because you become someone who can handle whatever way it goes. That's real control. Not forcing results, not micromanaging fate, but building a mind that remains steady, regardless of the outcome. Detach from results. Devote yourself to discipline. That's when effort compounds. That's when worry fades. That's when progress becomes inevitable. 4. Calm is a strategic advantage. Most people never develop. Most people think calm is something you earn after life settles down, when the problem is solved, when the pressure disappears, when certainty finally arrives. Stoicism flips that idea completely. Calm is not the reward. Calm is the weapon, and that's why so few people ever develop it. Look around. In moments of pressure, most people speed up. They talk more, they react faster, they try to regain control by force. But speed without clarity creates mistakes. Noise without direction creates chaos. Reaction without thought creates regret. The Stoics understood something timeless. The calmer your mind, the more options you can see. Calm expands perception. Anxiety collapses it. When you're worried, your world shrinks. You see threats everywhere. You miss timing. You misread people. When you're calm, you notice patterns. You read the room. You sense when to move and when to wait. That's not emotional softness. That's tactical awareness. This is why calm people often dominate high-pressure environments. Not because they care less, but because they're not drowning in internal noise. Think about leaders during crises. The ones people trust aren't the loudest. They're not the most emotional. They're the ones who slow the moment down. They pause. They listen. They choose their words carefully. Calm creates authority, not forced authority, natural authority, because calm signals self-mastery. And self-mastery is rare. Worry, on the other hand, leaks information. It shows insecurity. It reveals desperation. It exposes attachment. People can feel it, even if you never say a word. That's why worry weakens your position socially, professionally, and psychologically. You might think you're hiding it. You're not. Stoicism treats calm as a trained skill, not a personality trait. It's built through repeated restraint. Every time you pause instead of reacting, breathe instead of escalating, observe instead of assuming, you strengthen that muscle. And here's the critical insight. Calm doesn't remove emotion. It puts emotion in its proper place. You still feel anger. You still feel fear. You still feel urgency. But you don't hand them the steering wheel. You let them inform you, not control you. This is why calm becomes a strategic advantage. In conflict, the calm person dictates pace. In uncertainty, the calm person makes cleaner decisions. In chaos, the calm person becomes the reference point. While others burn energy reacting, you conserve energy choosing, and energy conservation is power. This is also where worry quietly destroys performance. Worry forces premature decisions. It pressures you to do something, anything, just to escape discomfort. Calm allows you to wait for leverage, and leverage is often invisible to a rushed mind. Here's a Stoic principle worth engraving. You don't need to win immediately. You need to not lose your position. Calm preserves position. It keeps you from overcommitting. It keeps you from saying things you can't retract. It keeps you from collapsing under emotional weight. Most people think calm means being passive. In reality, calm is what allows precise action. When the moment to act arrives, the calm mind moves decisively, without hesitation, without panic, without waste. That's why calm often looks like confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't rush explanation. The kind that doesn't beg outcomes. Here's a simple Stoic drill you can apply. The next time you feel urgency rising, the impulse to respond immediately, insert a pause, not to suppress, not to overthink, just to create space. Ask yourself, what does this situation require? Reaction or response? Reaction is emotional, and response is deliberate. That single pause restores your advantage. Because the person who controls their tempo controls the interaction. This is why life begins to work out when you stop worrying. Not because problems vanish, but because you stop meeting them from a weakened position. You meet them calm, and calm changes the game. Calm is not the absence of danger, it is the absence of internal chaos. And when your inner world is ordered, the outer world becomes manageable. 5. Life works out when you stop resisting it. Here is the final truth, and the one most people avoid their entire lives. Life doesn't break you because it's difficult. It breaks you because you resist what already is. Resistance is subtle. It sounds like, this shouldn't have happened. I didn't deserve this. Things were supposed to be different. On the surface, these thoughts seem reasonable. Underneath, they are declarations of war against reality, and reality never loses. Stoicism names this clearly. You are free to respond, but you are not free to rewrite existence. The moment you understand this, worry begins to dissolve. Because worry is not about the future, it's about fighting the present. You worry when life deviates from your plan. You worry when outcomes don't match your expectations. You worry when control slips through your fingers. But control was never the point. Alignment was. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance, not fake positivity, but a disciplined decision to use everything that happens, good or bad, planned or unexpected, comfortable or painful. Most people hear this and misunderstand it. They think, so I'm supposed to like suffering. No, you're supposed to stop wasting energy wishing it didn't happen. Because the moment something occurs, it becomes material. Material for growth, material for character, material for strength. When you resist reality, you fracture yourself. Part of you lives in the past. Part of you fears the future. Very little of you remains present, and without presence, nothing works. But when you stop resisting, when you say, this is what I have, now what? Your energy returns. Clarity returns. Agency returns. Movement returns. This is why people often say, things started working out when I stopped trying to force them. They're not talking about luck. They're talking about coherence. Their thoughts stopped fighting facts. Their emotions stopped arguing with time. Their actions stopped leaking desperation. And suddenly, life felt lighter. Not because it got easier, but because they stopped carrying unnecessary weight. Here's the hardest pill to swallow. Much of what you call worry is grief for a version of life that no longer exists. A path you imagined, a timing you expected, an identity you thought you would have by now. Stoicism doesn't mock that grief, but it refuses to let you live inside it. It asks a sharper question. Given reality as it is, who do you choose to become? That question restores power instantly. Because fate controls events, but you control meaning, and meaning determines direction. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to escape hardship, but to meet it without inner collapse. He understood that when resistance ends, life stops feeling like an enemy, not because it becomes gentle, but because you become grounded. This is the paradox. The moment you stop demanding that life obey you, life begins to cooperate, not by giving you everything you want, but by giving you exactly what you can use. Strength, perspective, endurance, wisdom, and those compound. Here's a Stoic practice to seal this truth. The next time something goes wrong, don't ask, why me? Ask, how is this training me? That single shift turns adversity into instruction. You stop seeing events as punishments. You start seeing them as assignments, and assignments are meant to be completed, not complained about. This is why life eventually works out for people who stop worrying. They're no longer fighting shadows. They're no longer negotiating with fate. They're no longer resisting the current. They move with it, not blindly, not weakly, but deliberately. Life doesn't require your approval. It requires your participation, and participation becomes powerful when resistance ends. That is Stoic peace. Not comfort, not certainty, but an unshakable willingness to meet whatever comes, and use it well. When you stop worrying, you start living. So let's bring this together. You've just walked through 5 Stoic truths, not to make life easier, but to make you steadier. You learned that worry is often an attempt to control what was never yours. Letting go is not weakness, it's alignment with reality. Chasing outcomes creates anxiety. Committing to process creates power. Calm is not passive, it's a strategic advantage. And life begins to work out when you stop resisting what already is. None of these truths promise comfort. Stoicism never did. What they offer instead is something far more valuable: inner order in a chaotic world. Life will remain uncertain. People will remain unpredictable. Outcomes will remain outside your control. But your response doesn't have to be. When you stop worrying, you don't become careless. You become precise. You stop bleeding energy into imaginary futures. You stop arguing with reality. You start acting with clarity, discipline, and calm. And over time, something quiet but powerful happens. You notice that life doesn't feel like it's fighting you anymore. Not because it changed, but because you did. If one of these truths resonated with you, leave it in the comments. And if you're committed to building a mind that stays steady no matter what life throws at you, subscribe and stay with us. Because Stoicism isn't about escaping the world, it's about becoming strong enough to stand inside it, unshaken. Final affirmation: I trust my actions. I release what I cannot control. I move forward calmly.